to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public during this time. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Good. Any other recognition of individual delegations? No? Okay. We will start with our elementary building project update.
Currently, I think everybody hopefully been able to see, I think we're hitting a pretty good stride on our schedule. The building's starting to be enclosed. Timing couldn't be better, thank goodness. We're starting our roofing package. Kind of the biggest thing we're dealing with right now is getting our glass. Our glass isn't going to be able to be here until December, beginning of December. But with that, at least we're getting our masonry's done really well. Our metal siding's all here, so we're able to start on that. We're seeing that on the far end already. So from that perspective, we've done really well. We're starting, all of our inspections are done as well on the inside. So we're actually going to start sheetrocking next week in Area B, which that's a big deal. We did our walkthroughs today for the roofing bids. So for the hail damage. So we had walkthrough today. We had three roofing contractors. One glass contractor showed up. So hopefully we'll get some good bids on that. From that perspective, mechanically on the ESSER projects, on mechanical, I know Rich has been working with the mechanical on that. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so we've talked about the mechanical in the middle school to take care of those. There's, I think, 11 classrooms plus that full music room in the gym, which would be actually you guys decided to take that out of the building premium for the bond project. It's some sort. We're looking at about $396,000 is what I had initially budgeted, but we will put that together as a base bid and several alternates. So that will be when the decision time comes with the middle school piece. So we really want to keep that moving so that it can happen in a timely manner with the rest of the construction as we going on next summer. And then in the high school, that is still the ESSER money, and we did a walkthrough there, and there's just a little bit more there than we thought, but it's nice to have all of that stuff on one list. So we'll put together the same type of, we'll have one base bid and some alternates, and then when we actually have the costs, and you guys sometimes what things cost, you can decide what the priorities are to fund. And hope you meet with the design team tomorrow and see how quickly they can get it out. And we really like to get that out by January. Have a chance of procuring equipment and get labor, I mean, it's just, it's important to get on everybody's schedule early. So those are moving along nicely, and the decision time will come once we have those bids.
Are there any questions on the school?
I do on the high school project on the ESSER funds. Did you guys, and I'm just out of my memory, there's we looked at that years ago, and there was the return air comes down through the corridor there. It's not ducted, is that correct? Isn't that one of the problems with that?
There is. There's 6 classrooms. It's served with an air handler. where the return air does come through the hallway, which doesn't meet current code.
Right, so are you guys gonna try to reconcile that? Is that part of that project?
Yes.
Okay.
We'd be looking at the solution of putting individual unit ventilators in the classrooms so that the fresh air would come in directly into the classroom.
Okay.
And,
So, there's several of those components like that. They're going to bid as alternates, starting with one component as the base bid. And then depending on how those come in, we will have to pick and choose which ones of those items that we feel prioritize on how to spend that dollar figure that we have available. So there's a number of, they walk through with Jim and, we've identified a number of things that would like to be fixed. But most definitely, we will probably not be able to fund all of them with those ESSER dollars. So we will have to look at those individually and decide which ones to tackle first. And
Do we have any other funding source available for that? Have you identified anything else that might be able to?
I mean, you can always use your building reserve for those kinds of projects as well. And it was really interesting working with Mr. Watson today and looking at, kind of the issues that he's identified in the shop, in the metal and wood areas, and kind of what the ventilation systems look like there, and which, level of what might be the most cost-effective solution to some of the challenges in that area. So these guys had a pretty neat idea about, how much a vestibule could help. Just a second doorway there could help from that exhaust coming in the school and some of those different components. So lots of different ideas and options. Like Chairman Noyes said, we're just gonna have to, might have to narrow it down to priorities. And then if there's still things on there that you feel very adamant about, we can look into other funding sources like our building reserve.
Was I know it's not the right word anymore, but the home ec room, was that on there too, the ventilation in the kitchen and was that part of something you guys looked at as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the home ec room, and has that separate room in the back. Yeah.
Okay, I figured you covered it all.
At least you'll have it bid out, and you guys will, they'll have designs and solutions, and we'll have bids. And then, obviously, there's an ESSER budget, so you spend out what you feel are your priorities, and then at least you'll have the ability, they'll be ready to go. If you do find alternative funding sources, you'll have it ready to go. Ready to choose how you want to fund those. That makes sense?
Yeah, and this is not under the general contract. This is separate from the general contract.
Separate from the, yeah.
And because it's separate, we couldn't use premium dollars, is that correct?
not on the.
Not on, yeah, okay.
Only for the middle school piece.
Only for the middle, okay. Great, thank you.
And that would be a totally separate bid.
Okay,
Two entirely separate projects. Middle school and high school.
And we also had an opportunity to go over some of the ESSER requirements that are different with using those funds. We might have a few more extra pieces of paper to fill out on capital projects and those kinds of things. So we went over that today. And then I wanted to thank Mr. Rock for inviting the teachers down to look at the boards that we have here in the room with some of the classroom options on there that have been selected, and the staff seemed pretty excited about those. So thanks for taking that on today.
I should have mentioned the FF&E, they're currently doing the FF&E bid specs, and that's what you see behind us. So those
Yeah.
will be finalized, and then you'll have plans that will go out for bid. So, yeah.
And then the other thing that came up today in that regard was that the staff would like to tour the new building project. And so Dick Anderson offered to do a walkthrough for staff on Friday after school.
I had a couple community members approached me about, they wanted to go look too.
I have heard the same. I think we should set up another one for community members. And if you guys want to come with staff, I think that'd be more than appropriate. But I think it'd be good to schedule that out a little ways and work on a good plan of welcoming the community in for that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, Dick Anderson's gonna be a lot more amenable to having walkthroughs now that the crane's off and their overhead work is done, so that'll lessen a lot of issues for them.
They were packing up the crane today. Is that what they were doing?
Crane's demoted today. Yeah.
I'm sad, I like the crane. Kind of
You
like
bet.
that.
I guess I'm going to add a little bit more to that. I was approached the other day by one of the football coaches about questions on the press box. And those questions were coming from community members that had been a part of, those initial fundraising. And we've talked about the press box quite a bit, but how we've got from where they started a couple years ago to where we are today. And when I visited with him, he understood it, but felt like I should share that with the community people. So I guess this is probably more for the camera than anybody. And then I will also put together something a little more formal that we can put out on Facebook or put in the paper. But, the original, that money was put together by donations and grants, and people, worked to do that. And that original dollar figure used to come up with those plans was based on estimates, volunteer work, and even some donated materials. But somewhere after that money was put together, the original contractor, I think, either got busy or because of it needing to be, a publicly bid thing, I guess kind of dropped off the radar and, didn't follow through with communication. And so we were kind of left sitting there holding, that money. And some of that was grant funds that had to be spent within so many days. And, regardless of how it started, we had to go through a public procurement process because of the size of that project. Anyway, we looked and asked lots of different people for, that might be interested to bid that project, and we couldn't find it. We were in jeopardy of losing those grant funds, and that's when we started talking with, Shane and Hulting, who's managing the building project, to see if there was some way that we could include that. Obviously, that was not in our bond language, so that could not be a direct component to the building project. But we did visit with Dick Anderson about them possibly adding it on. And it took us several weeks, several months of asking, hounding, begging for them to take a look at that, which they finally did agree to. When they looked at the initial plans, because of the difference in time and the price escalation that we're dealing with, their original estimate on what that plan was considerably more than those original funds that were donated and part of the grant. So before we moved forward, we had them look at it, and we reduced the size of that building, and we also eliminated some of the finish work out of it. Not doing the sheetrock, there's some divider walls in it that can be done later. But in order to get that project down to a feasible amount of money that we had available to us, we did make those reductions. We did go out with an RFP, knowing that Dick Anderson had agreed to put in a bid. We ran that for the required 2 weeks. The only bid we did receive was from Dick Anderson. It was still over the dollar figure that the football program had raised. In July, the board agreed to fund that additional difference so that we didn't lose those grant funds and those donated funds that had been put into the project. And so we were able to move forward with that. Again, Dick Anderson only got approval to do that in July. And the fact that it is up and usable is really phenomenal. It is not finished. And I think that's where some of the questions came is, now it's just sitting there. And the two things we're waiting on is tin for the outside and the roll-up doors that will go on the inside. But the finish work is something that we agreed to that would have to be done separately and could be done at a later time. So that is something that either the football program or us as a district will have to decide, when and where we can appropriately fund those, or if the football program comes up with the money to finish that. But basically, once the building is sided and those roll-up doors are in, Dick Anderson's completion of that will be at that point. So it is a little different than what, 2 years ago, I think, when they started that, on where we've ended up, where we are. But that's kind of why that building is sitting where it is at the moment. And I know there was some question on, well, why aren't they doing the finish work while they wait for the tin? Well, the finish work is no longer in that project. So anyway, I hope that helps anybody that doesn't understand how we got from point A to point B, but that's where we are at today. And again, we thank Dick Anderson and Holting for taking that on in addition to what we brought them here for originally. So we do appreciate that.
Yeah. I'd like to add, we did put that out to bid 2 years ago, and we got one bidder, and he was not able to bond the project. So we couldn't.
Okay, that's what you want.
That's
when the communication.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was not able and not willing to insure it, and it was over 50,000, so we have to. And that's why that we stopped at that point.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Holting? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Okay, we will move on to consent action items, minutes and warrants. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes and warrants as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes and warrants as presented. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion passes. Action items, approve the MOU with Rocky Mountain Development Council Foster Parent Grandparent Program.
So this is a program that you guys have been engaged in the past and has gone really well, and is a neat opportunity to collaborate with our community and to bring in our grandparents in the community to support our students. We have stalled a little bit on it this fall because of our COVID numbers. And actually this week we just started letting our high school staff get back to volunteering in the elementary classrooms as well, since we are happy to report we've had a decline in COVID cases. And so we wanted to get the MOU in place so that when it is appropriate, our foster grandparent could begin with us. And her paperwork is in here as well. So we already have somebody selected to join us here at the school. And she's anxious to get started as soon as we feel that is safe. But we need to have the MOU in place first.
I'll move to approve the MOU with MRDC as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the MOU with MRDC as presented. Is there any further discussion?
Ms. Evans, just a quick question on page 2 of the MOU. It talks about the bill assigned one foster grandparent to serve up to blank number of students. Do we have any idea what's the, what would be the kind of the upper limit of that?
Yeah, before I submit the MOU, I will get a more accurate number from Ms. Hartman. I'm not sure how many classrooms Ms. Bliss will be working in, so I just wasn't sure on the exact student number. But generally, she works with a few classrooms.
Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Approve the MOU with Stoke.
So we have been working with Stoke and having conversations. I'm sure you guys remember, and thank you for again attending one of our board meetings. We were excited to hear, they have many great ideas and I think are an asset to our community, and we all appreciate them allowing us the use of the lodge. I know the football team had their breakfast there the other morning, for example. I know many members of the community appreciate you guys letting us come in and utilize the lodge, and the fact that you want to have more education opportunities there for our students is incredible. And so I have heard of Snapology from parents of friends of mine who have their students involved in the program in Helena, and heard phenomenal things about it. And it's a STEAM engineering opportunity and fits right in the mission with the learning opportunities and enrichment opportunities that Stoke would like to provide to our students in Townsend. So we met and worked on a proposal together. They worked on a proposal for us, and we thought that we could start out by offering a 6-week program. It'd be once a week for 6 weeks. And if we did one for the middle school age group and one for the 3rd through 5th grade age group, that'd be a good way to launch an opportunity for after school enrichment and engagement, which is part of what was required. We set aside some of those ESSER funds for, if you remember, the exact language was for additional education opportunities outside of the school day. So that would fit right into this, and we have the funds set aside to make this happen. And it's a really great curriculum that is well planned out, and they have staff ready to run and all of that. So I think it's something that we could move forward on and see how many students we get, we gain interest from, and see if it's something we want to do this fall and maybe do a different version of this spring, or a similar type program we could do in a different way this spring, or how we want to move forward. But this would be a way to launch a program and a partnership with Stoke. And I'll turn it over to Board Chair, if that's all right, to see if any of these folks would like to add any information that I may have missed.
Yes, I'm James Domino. I'm the president of Stoke, and we're really excited about this opportunity. We see it as fitting perfectly within our goal of enhancing youth educational opportunities outside of school, and we thank you very much for considering this and for helping us with moving this forward. And I think this is going to be hopefully the beginning of something that we can continue. From everything I've heard about the program, is positive, so we're very excited about it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I would move that we approve the MOU with Stoke as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the MOU with Stoke as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Approved participation in the Military Children's Interstate Compact Commission and the Purple Star School Program.
So this is a program that one of our local members brought to my attention, and it's something that I also worked on at the state level, and so I know quite a bit about the Military Children's Compact Commission. And it might not be something that we see a ton of in Townsend, but in towns like Great Falls, it's very important, where there's a high level of military families. And just as we've talked about with our homeless children and our foster care population, since we moved away from No Child Left Behind to the Every Student Succeeds Act, it's really important that we focus on and honor and recognize the opportunities that we are required to be providing to these different student groups. And so military families is one of those groups. And so what this initiative does is it designates a liaison at our school that is going to be trained and receive professional development. This doesn't have to be a faculty member, from what I understand. It could be a community member. So Kevin McDonald, for example, called me today and recommended somebody, and I did give him a call, and he's considering it. And then I also put it out in an all-staff email. So we're hoping to find someone that would be interested in doing this. So they would participate in the professional development. And then when we receive military families, they would coordinate with them and make sure that we have everything set up and all the supports in place for them. One of the other requirements of participating in the program is making sure that we have a page on our website about it. and how we're associated with it and how we honor military families and children at our school. So I think it's pretty straightforward. And if you follow all of the guidelines and support military families, you could be up for award categories and receive a Purple Star award for a place in your state if you follow all the guidelines of the program. And the Military Interstate Children's Commission does meet, and I have attended some of their meetings in the past in Great Falls, and they do a lot of great things for military families and children. So if anybody has any detailed questions that the paperwork in our packet didn't fill in, let me know.
I move to approve the participation in the Military Children's Interstate Compact Commission Purple Star School Program.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve participation in the Military Children's Interstate Compact Commission Purple Star School Program. That's a mouthful. Any
Yes.
discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Personnel, employment, substitutes.
So I recommend that we approve the following substitutes, and one of them is currently a student teacher, but she is reaching the level of her program at which she is allowed to substitute for 5 days if the teacher needs to be out of the classroom. So the colleges generally have a provision like that written in the program that we sign off on with a student teacher. So we just want to make sure she's approved and can do that if we need to utilize her in that classroom. And she has that opportunity, then we wouldn't have to bring in another substitute teacher, which would help us out right now. And this week has definitely been a hard week, for example, with filling in with substitutes. So we have had a few more applicants come in, but we still have a lack of substitutes on certain days. So we would greatly appreciate you employing the following substitutes.
Okay, well, I move to approve Caitlin Koturba, Carrie Harper, and Mitchell Stocks as substitutes. And then-
Pending the background.
Pending background checks.
Thank you.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Caitlin Cutterbaugh, Carrie Harper, and Michelle Stocks pending successful background checks as substitutes. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Junior high girls basketball coaches. I think the intent at the moment is to pass consideration on this item at this time till the next board meeting, pending some further review and consideration on that. So I think we will move past that one and into the junior high boys basketball coach.
Kevin Reed would like to serve as the new junior high boys basketball coach and has come highly recommended.
Okay, so I move to approve Kevin Reed as a junior high boys basketball coach. Does that need a background check as well for that?
I have done so many, I think he's okay, but I will have.
He's okay,
I
okay.
think he turned in all his.
Yeah, okay.
Fingerprints and all that, I think, if I recall.
Okay. There you go. I'm not sure how that ended.
Close enough. Is there a second?
Pending background check.
Pending background checks, I guess.
Just in case, yeah. We're, tracking how many we have quite a few.
Yeah.
Because of the,
Monday, sorry,
Yeah.
that starts Monday.
Yeah, first practice is next.
So-
Oh,
correct. So with the AD or other coaches in the area, we can go ahead and start that person. So that's how we've been working that.
Yeah, regardless.
Or with other volunteers that have already been approved, so.
Okay, I will second it. So it's been moved and seconded to approve Kevin Reed as junior high boys basketball coach pending successful background check. Is there any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. After school program personnel.
So Shaylee Chaplin has been working in our kitchen since the end of summer and this fall and done a nice job, and she would like to work at our after-school program as well.
I'll move to approve Shaylee Chaplin to work in our after-school program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Shaylee Chaplin to work at our after-school program. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Paraprofessionals.
So Cassidy Driscoll was interviewed this last week and is interested in working as a paraprofessional, mainly in the K-8 role, but she could fill in at the high school as well if needed. And she is looking forward to working with kids and specifically one-on-one, but willing to learn more and step in and fill into classrooms as needed. And so we're excited to bring her on board. She had great energy about working at the school, working with students.
Okay, so move to approve Cassidy Driscoll to work as a K-8 professional, or paraprofessional, pending background check.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Cassidy Driscoll to work as a K-8 paraprofessional pending successful background check. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Policy review, anything on?
Excuse me, was there, I was told to ask about a bus driver that possibly was
Yes, it's
be
been,
on tonight's list? Did we do? Maybe it wasn't paying attention. Is there one that we could approve tonight or should, or does that need to wait?
The person that turned the paperwork in today was already approved in the spring.
Okay,
Oh, okay, so that is already approved.
we received the rest of their
so we just
paperwork
lost that
today.
paperwork somewhere.
Okay.
And even if not, they can still begin with,
Okay.
yep,
All right.
pending board approval, they could still begin driving bus. So we can move
Okay.
forward with
Thank
that.
you. Yeah,
We received
sorry.
we received the rest of the paperwork today,
Right, that's
So.
why, yes.
just a little bit ago.
Good deal.
So,
Kids
Yes.
are tired of walking.
Yeah, we don't want to.
And so that person was approved last year, did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, we're gonna
I
double
believe
check the
so.
board minutes to make sure that that's accurate. Otherwise, we'll
It's
bring
the
it
same
back to you
one
next
Ed
month.
was referring to.
Oh,
That's
okay,
brought up
okay.
a couple of
I
times.
know it's
Yeah.
approved as a sub too.
Yes.
Yeah, yep.
So he already has a background check.
So we just needed
Okay.
some of the driving materials. And then on that note, we had, I don't know if this is appropriate time or not, but on that note, Mr. Odell and Chair Noyes and I did talk about the opportunity to maybe purchase a passenger van or two in the future, because without a CDL, we can have a bus driver with 15 kids, or a driver with 15 kids then in the van. We even have districts across the state have. And I know I purchased one at the school I was at last year, and it worked out really well for field trips or taking classrooms or that kind of thing. So definitely something to think about using and the legislature did change it so that to purchase those passenger vans now.
Yeah, he brought up that, that Suburban has been really a lifesaver, in moving small groups of people, but this would then fill that gap where too many for the Suburban, but still not enough for a bus load. And there's quite a few opportunities, I think.
I think we would use one constantly.
And you need a CDL above 15, or just the bus type, I guess it is.
That's 16.
It's 16 is the CDL.
It's the passengers, I believe, because I believe the van that we purchased last year had 20 seats in it, but I could drive it with 15 students, because I believe you have to keep under 16.
Okay. All right, thank you, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the bus can make the van can make a difference also. It has to be marked correctly. So there's more than
Okay.
one factor for sure. but-
Okay.
The one worked really well that we purchased last year, and I know a lot of districts are utilizing those, especially for, I know when I met with our Carl Perkins teams, so that's the CTE programs, they were all about it. They thought it didn't take a whole school bus.
So, and then anybody that's hired a teacher or anybody else can go ahead and drive it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like the smaller sports programs, like for example, golf, sometimes when we get down to like postseason stuff where with all their gear and just, 4 or 5 kids, the Suburban's too small, and yet the bus is too big, and we end up taking, Mr. Robichaud takes his truck and a trailer, and it would solve a lot of those issues too, I think, as well.
Okay, thank
Definitely
you.
think it's worth exploring, getting some costs.
Yep.
Okay. All right, now is there anything on the policy that we need to address or amend, or things seem to be?
I think our policies are working well, and our current policies that are on the agenda, our 1900 series, our COVID policies are working well, and our policy updates that we made at our last meeting seem to be working effectively, and I don't have any recommendation for changes at this time.
How did the county respond to that, to the change?
Well, and we met with them before we proposed a change to the board and at the public meeting, and
They weren't, the health people from the county though weren't here at that second meeting.
no, but I did speak with them and meet with them before the board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were okay with
Yep.
the, okay.
Yep, and we've been coordinating and communicating with them and still contact tracing with them and doing all of that.
We have had a few students in the high school take advantage of that were close contacts, and yet they're still able to be at school and in their classrooms and doing their thing, and so far so good, no issues at all, so.
We've had a couple of cases here and there trickle in. No.
Positive tests or?
Yeah, positive student tests. We haven't had any, and maybe one teacher a week or so ago, but we haven't had any surges
It's
lately.
kind of slowing down.
Yes.
Seems like it's slowing down.
Yeah. And most of our staff and students have returned, so that's been great.
And so regarding the close contact, because you've had a couple that's positive, that's tested positive, so obviously there'd be some close contacts. Have those close contacts went ahead and came to school, wore a mask, or did they remote learn?
They had the choice, so.
They did, but
Yep.
what did we end up
It
with?
seems
Anybody at
like
home?
most people have worn
A mask.
masks, but
Okay.
I haven't kept tally. Just
Okay.
let
I was
them
just
make their
curious,
choice, yeah.
Yeah, I was
And
curious
then,
what the behavior would be.
Yeah, I could run a report on that for you for future information, just to kind of see what the difference was overall. When we have had it go on for a month or two, and so we have a wider range of a look at that. Would be
So
interesting.
Yeah, the day after the board meeting, we had, I want to say 3 or 4 high school kids, like their parents were on the horn, can my kid come back to school? So, and they came back right away, and they wore masks until they were cleared by the county health, with cooperation with county health, so that went really well. And then I think we've had 3 new cases in the high school that were close contact. 2 came back with masks until they were cleared, and we only have one that has chosen to stay remote. So that's kind of, it's not a huge number, but that's kind of how it's shaken out.
Okay.
in high school so far.
Okay, because the intent was to try to keep kids in school one way or the other, and specifically in school physically. So I'm glad to hear that that's been seems to be working.
Yeah, and we haven't had any major issues. I know that was one concern. We had one student that we weren't sure about in the high school. There was some confusion. And so I just asked, him politely to put on a mask. Well, I made a phone call to the county health department, and they verified that he was cleared, and I told him he could take his mask off, and I appreciated his cooperation. So, yeah.
Thank you for the responses.
Very good. Okay, moving on, principals reports. Mr. Rock.
Okay, the first couple on my list, we beat to death. There's no point in discussing attendance and staff shortages. One is getting better, the other is still an issue. Tomorrow, we will be able to continue something we've started over the last several years, which is a local history lesson and presentation that occurs out of the Canton Church. A group does that, and it is really probably about the best presentation on Broadwater County history you could ever go to. It's fascinating. It's done by a group that does that out there. Their sample and Keith Kirscher are a big part of that, and they really treat our kids well, and it's been a really good educational thing, something that you could spend a lot of classroom days trying to learn that they can do in a much more dynamic way. So we had to cancel that last year, just with everything, but they will be able to do that tomorrow. So we're really excited about that. And I think one of the things, I think we're in a unique position with our school where we're located in the state. There's so many local things out here that sometimes maybe we don't take advantage of, and it's really cool to have people willing to do that with our students. So that'll be tomorrow. And then another thing that we're hoping to have back this year is our student council Halloween party. For many years, we've done kind of a different thing in the middle school. We do not allow students to dress up once they reach middle school during the school day, wear costumes, and we just avoid all whole magnitude of issues with that. So as a replacement, the student council does a Halloween party. We make the students commit to being there, and there's a very, very small fee associated with it. But they have to RSVP and commit, or they don't come, and it's just, we kind of use it as a chance to kind of teach them about making plans and those kind of things. And the students really get a lot out of it. Traditionally, we've had a dance as part of it. We'll wait and see what our current conditions are before that, but we will try to we'll do it in the safest way possible, and what exactly we're able to do will depend kind of on our current health conditions at the time, but we're excited to have that back because the kids, it was one of the things that was really, there were a lot of things from last year that just we missed out on, but the kids didn't get a lot of extra things last year. And so it's good to try to get a few of those back as safely as we can now. So we're excited about that. And that's it. You can see with our attendance numbers, I don't think there's anything unexpected there, but it is getting better. So hopefully it stays that way.
Deborah?
All right. So the high school, as everybody knows, ended up going solo for parent-teacher conferences for our first round. And actually, kind of some surprising outcomes. We had probably the most well-attended high school parent-teacher conferences that we have had in years. A lot of comments, a great turnout, and some really good, meaningful conversations between teachers and parents. And we had a lot of feedback and comments, not that unsolicited, they just said, you know what, we really kind of like the high school ones on their own, so we're not competing with our time trying to race to the junior high and elementary with those families that have kids, across the board or even in the two schools. So maybe definitely something that we can consider for the future, maybe keeping them separate, a point of discussion that at some time didn't even think about that till we started, getting some feedback on that. So we were really happy with that. Homecoming was just a blast. We survived homecoming week. It was crazy. We had a great time. I just can't say enough about how great the kids were, how great the staff was. Everybody just went above and beyond to kind of revive homecoming and bring it back to what it's been, aside from the last couple of years. So we did resurrect Powder Puff football. That hasn't been done in a lot of years, is my understanding here, at least before I ever came. And they took that and ran with it and just had a ball. So pun intended. They had a great time. It was really fun. We crowned Klaus Rouser as the homecoming king and Sarah Christensen as the queen. And it was great. Over the top participation by the high school. Almost every dress up day we had well over 70% participation by all classes. So they have a really good time. My principal advisory board is up and running. I have, counting in my head, I think I have 12 kids on it, which is great. That's a nice size advisory board. They span all of the different classes. They set some goals at their first meeting last month, and 2 things that they would like to work on as the board is, we've talked for the last couple of years about doing a big dog, little dog reading program during advisory on Fridays, where the high school kids go and volunteer and read to the different classrooms. I know the football team does it, once or twice a year, and some other kids do it, but they kind of want to make it a regular thing in the lower grades, which we all know builds a lot of camaraderie between the younger kids and the older kids. Obviously, it got put on the back burner with everything going on in COVID land, so they really want to make that happen. So we started making some definite plans to try to get that rolling by November per their ideas. They also really want to start bringing back some really high quality assemblies. They feel like it's time for Pat Goldhand and Buckle Up Blue for Lauren to revisit the high school. We haven't, the seniors this year were freshmen when he last was here. And so they feel like that's an important message about, driving safe and making good choices and those kinds of things. So we're looking at several different assemblies, and they're just a fun crew. We've been having a good time working on some things that we want to talk about in the high school and some goals. The staff and I discussed MAPS testing today. In the past, we've done it in October. Obviously, again, one of the things that's been kind of derailed and shuffled around in the high school. Now with the kids all having their own devices, we're working on a schedule, and staff decided today that a really good time to look at test scores and benchmarks of where the high school students are, especially after the last year and a half and remote learning for some. And we just want to really get a good read on, if we do have a lot of learning loss, if we do have several kids behind, if we have a lot of kids struggling or that aren't at the level they should be for their grade level. So we're looking at doing our first round. The staff thought the best time would be right after we're done with the first quarter, so it'll be early November, and we'll get that first round of testing that. And that's also connected to like our title program and the things for that as well. So, and then as you can see, the upcoming activities speak for themselves. This is everything that's going on, in the big picture. Lots of other little activities in between, but it is a busy month before the next board meeting. We're hitting the postseason, so things are ramping up quickly. All of our our sports programs are just performing phenomenally. They're all having amazing seasons. So I foresee having a very active postseason this year. I feel we'll be in a lot of postseason tournaments, maybe to the end for some of them. So that's exciting. We, obviously things depend on some win losses here in the next couple of weeks, but we highly likely to be hosting some playoff football games and things like that. So I'm excited for the kids, and they're all working hard, and we're having a good time. So, and you can see discipline-wise, the honeymoon's over. We're getting it sorted out. It'll be better next month. Discipline-wise.
Oh.
They're a little randy this fall, but we'll get it ironed out. So.
With the MAPS testing, I was just curious now I'm sure you tell me this every year. Okay, what's the MAP stand for, and what's the content areas?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Oh, okay, I rescind that question.
What
are the content areas?
So we test the high school in math, English as far as language, so the grammar portion, comprehension, and then reading comprehension. And then we also we now have science available to us. So we like to, especially the freshmen coming in, those science questions that, they also incorporate math into it. We can kind of see where they are level-wise for their upper levels.
And each grade and every student takes a MAPS test.
Yep, they do.
Yeah, so and just final question around that. So when you say
So now I'm
there's
going to find out what that means, because I can never remember.
it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. But so then which
Major
content?
academic progress.
Major academic. Oh, thank you. That's very good. Major academic. That was quick
Major
too.
academic progress.
The,
Sounds good.
But, so are we gonna, do you phase those? Do you have math at one point, English at another point, for instance,
Yeah,
the
so what we
communication
done-
piece?
Yeah, what we've done in the past is we would just do like 3 days and in the morning, and we do one test every morning, you know, for different grades. This class would test, and then there's some, the other class would switch and they test in the afternoon. Now with all the kids having their own devices, that's what we're working on. I think we're gonna be able to, you know, maybe hit different periods, so we're not just hitting the same period, but like first hour, we could set it up so that everybody takes the math test first hour in their individual classrooms instead of pulling them out of other classes. And I don't know, we gotta work that out yet. That's one of the things we're working on, because this will be our first time to do it with all of their independent devices, so.
So now you
Instead of
have,
moving them to the labs.
right. So you have some like state benchmarks and then local benchmarks as well?
Right, both,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yep, it'll be good to measure. We haven't done it in a while, and it's time.
And and I'm just curious, we have the 2019 data? Would that be the correct year, 2019? Anyway, pre-COVID, we have the pre-COVID data?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, I was just thinking what, yeah.
And
So we have fall of 2019.
Would it be 20?
Yeah. That's the last time we were testing.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, so you'll be able to do that analysis around that.
yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Hedlund.
All right, so I'll skip to the ELC grant status. So we have a couple of applicants for that position so far. And we have some paperwork that we are required to fill out with DPHHS that I have in the works. So that's something that I'm working on. We did already receive our funding, the $45,000 for that grant. So
That's fast.
yeah, that came quick, like they said it would. So we've got to complete our paperwork, order the tests, and get that position filled is our end of the deal. So working on making sure we get that done.
Got some applicants.
Yes, so far I have 2 applicants. So hoping to leave that open and have a competitive applicant pool. And then also have 1 or actually 2 applicants for the curriculum director and learning loss position, which would help supplement the teacher that we've put in the remote learning position, kind of some of the work that she'd been doing with supporting students in the school too. So looking forward to that. And as far as that curriculum work goes, we are working with this summer and this fall, we worked with Roberts School District because they have a curriculum that the K-5 teachers are interested in, that the ELA program that they're using, which is CKLA Amplify, and Absorki's also using it. So we are working on getting the teachers together. So they're going to send videos of them teaching it in their classroom since we don't have enough subs to go visit, and then set up times when they can Zoom chat and ask their questions, as well as working with the various companies to set up conversations about the curriculum and the structure. And then as we work through that process, of course, it would come to the board, whatever the staff has decided on, it would come to the board and we would have that discussion and go over those programs with you guys. So the staff is looking into those programs very carefully and doing a lot of research, and it fits right in with the work that they did before I came on. They realized that they needed to do some work in ELA, and they started by really diving into the science of reading, which I think is critical. So the programs that they're looking at do align with the science of reading. And then, of course, my big thing was that they're research and evidence-based. So they're on the federal documents, and as well as multiple states like Colorado and Idaho. There's some other states that have done some great reviews of programs and, ranked them on their evidence and research-based strategies. And so making sure that the programs that we're looking at meet all of those requirements. And of course, nothing new or crazy, just regular reading programs that meet that science of reading and research and evidence-based programming to teach all of those skills and to do better at some of the areas that the staff has been wanting to focus on, like phonics and phonemic awareness and those kinds of things. So So that's what's going on with the PD with the staff and kind of our staffing update on those positions. So MCEL, as you know, has gone virtual only. So just want to make sure and let you guys know if you'd signed up to attend, it is virtually offered only now, which is a bummer. I got to go to one meeting this summer with school administrators in person, the first one in years, and it was just so great and such a different feeling than it was a nice break from the virtual conferences. So I was bummed that we're virtual MCEL again, but so we might see each other on some of the same sessions. If you can join or which ones you think are important to you, we'll see on some of those. And then another thing that we have going on with staff professional development is the CPI, and that's crisis prevention intervention. And so any of our staff that works with students that maybe act out physically or have behavior issues, it's really important that they are CPI certified. I gave a couple of examples the other day. I saw a kindergartner running down the hallway the other day, and I said, stop, and that student had stopped and was looking at me and was thinking about what they were going to do next. And then another teacher came around the corner, chasing them. And so, of course, they ran farther. So the whole point is, how do we not encourage those behaviors? How do we intervene, in the least impactful way? They teach you stance and how to sit with students who may be escalating, all different kinds of great tactics, with the end result, the least favorable being having to restrain a child if they're going to harm themselves or someone else. So also, I have had to restrain a child in that situation where they were going, at harm they're at risk of harming themselves. And it is really important that our staff have that certification if we end up in a legal situation, because no parent ever wants to hear that their child was restrained. And we don't ever want to restrain a child, but sometimes it's necessary. So we need to have everyone trained properly. So we have that set up for next week. So just wanted to let you know about that and the importance of that. Another thing I've been collaborating with the hospital on is the flu shot clinic and also mental health services. We used to contract with them with the therapist that they had. They no longer have. They're currently contracting with someone, telehealth, out of Livingston, which I believe is the same gal that I used telehealth with last year. And she's great, but if we can find anybody local, we have some students that could really use it. We have a high need for some mental health services. So I've reached out to multiple people at the state within the last week. I'm starting to make some ground with Shodair and Intermountain even to see if they have anybody. I know Intermountain's contracting with East Helena and Helena School District, I believe, and Shodair's contracting with some other schools in the state. So those are services that we really need to have in place. So working on securing that so we can offer that to families. And then our county doesn't have any flu shots available, at least last week when I checked. So they were going to let me know when we have flu shots enough to possibly run a flu shot clinic for the staff. The staff has been asking about that. On the 27th, we have a library meeting. I do not believe the library agreement has been finalized for this school year. You know any different than that? That's last I heard. We still had some.
Interlocal.
Yeah. I believe we had some final adjustments to make with that. So we're going to be following up on that and taking a look at the interlocal agreement. And that'll be a chance for me to get up to speed on our library situation and agreement. I know one of the things that Ms. Heverin and some of us have talked about wanting to see a change on is that the public hours don't cross over as much with the school hours, just for safety. We background check everyone else that is coming in and work, around our students. And so just to let the public in there in the library situation makes me a little bit nervous, but we also want to make sure that the public has ample opportunity to utilize the library. We've also had some issues with our public internet and scaled that back a bit, but then found out that that was the public internet is needed for the visiting sports teams. So that was causing some conflict. But we have some folks that like to park around the neighborhood and use the internet, and we don't know what they're doing on there necessarily, and it causes some issues, as well as students that are no longer at school, or ex-students or those kinds of things that were coming on campus to utilize the internet during the school day. So it kind of it's attracting people on campus when they shouldn't be here. So that causes some problems, and I don't know if you want to chime in on that at all, Joe.
Sure. So one thing that Luke and I are looking at is ways to still offer that type of service, but on a more managed basis. Right now, with what we have, it's very difficult to control. We can turn it on, but then we have to remember to go back in and turn it off if we turn public off. And so we're working with Pineco to figure out a solution for this. I haven't heard the latest on what Luke has heard from them, but I know that they are working on something, and they have some software packages that will help manage that sort of thing for our network.
Thank you. So then ending on a happy note, I get to go on the field trip tomorrow. So thank you. Hopefully that works out. I really appreciated the invite by Mr. Lawson and Mr. Rock encouraging that, so I can go have that experience with the middle school kids. I think will be incredible. And I just want to say thanks to our admin team and our staff and all of you for helping out with homecoming and our community members. It was just an awesome weekend, and I'm really proud that I got to be a part of it. So I think everyone did an excellent job, and it was a lot of fun. And a lot of families said that it was the most fun they'd had in a long time. So
Yeah, it was a very successful event for the senior class as well. Very good. Any other questions, comments? Meeting adjourned. If you had to have so many questions.
I know.
Oh.